Welcome to the Midnight Naturalist. Tonight, we are going to follow a mystery that happens inside you every single night. It begins in the most ordinary way. A room grows dim, a body lies down, the day becomes quieter, your eyes close, and from the outside, it looks as if nothing much is happening. But that is the illusion. Because while you are drifting away from the world, your body is not simply shutting down. It is changing shifts. It is lowering some lights, opening hidden doors, sorting the fragments of the day, repairing what it can, softening what has been too sharp, and preparing to return you to morning. Sleep is one of the strangest things you do. You spend nearly a third of life disappearing from your own awareness, and yet you trust that something will keep breathing for you. Something will keep your heart moving. Something will listen for danger, adjust your temperature, tend your memories, and carry you through dreams you may never fully remember. So here is the quiet question for tonight. When you fall asleep, where do you go? And what stays behind to take care of you? In this slow journey, we will move through the hidden night shift of the sleeping body. We will begin before the first dream, in the soft borderland between waking and sleep. Then we will descend beneath thought, into the deeper rhythms of breath, heart, and brain. We will follow the body's repair crews as they work in the dark. We will walk through the garden of memory, where some parts of the day are kept and others are gently released. We will cross the strange weather of dreams. We will meet the quiet animal inside you, the ancient part that keeps watch while you rest. And finally, we will return to the pale edge of morning. You do not need to study this. You do not need to remember every detail. Let it move slowly. Let it be a voice in the dark. If you enjoy calm science, sleep stories, and quiet journeys through the hidden life of the body, you are in the right place. This is the Midnight Naturalist, and tonight we begin with a simple thought. Before you wake up in the morning, your body has already spent hours bringing you back. Before the first dream, there is a threshold. This is the part of the night most people never notice, because it looks too ordinary to be mysterious. It is only a person lying down, only a room becoming quiet, only a tired body asking for rest. But the doorway into sleep is never truly empty. It is where light, temperature, memory, safety, and habit all meet. It is where the waking self begins to loosen its grip. It is where the body asks one ancient question again and again. Is it safe enough now? If the answer is yes, even a soft yes, the night begins. Before you open your eyes in the morning, before you remember your name, or the room, or the quiet shape of the day waiting for you, your body has already been working for hours. Not loudly, not dramatically, not in the way the waking world works, with lists and clocks and voices asking for one more thing, but softly, in the dark, behind the curtain of sleep, your heart has kept its patient rhythm. Your lungs have risen and fallen, again and again, like a tide that never asks to be noticed. Your skin has measured the temperature of the room. Your muscles have loosened their grip on the day. Your brain has moved through hidden weather, waves of activity, islands of memory, quiet flashes of dream. And all of this happened while you were gone, or almost gone, because sleep is not really an absence. It is not a blank space. It is not the body shutting down like a house with every lamp turned off. Sleep is more like a forest after sunset. From a distance, it seems still. The path darkens, the birds grow quiet, the air cools, the visible world, but under the leaves, life continues. Roots drink in the dark. Small creatures move through grass. Mushrooms open in the damp places. Flowers turn slowly toward a moon they cannot see. The forest is not sleeping in the way we imagine sleep. It is changing shifts. Your body does something similar. When the day ends, another intelligence begins its work. Acquitter 1. Older than language, older than calendars, older than the little voice in your head that says, I should have done more today. Tonight, we are going to follow that quiet intelligence, not as a lecture, not as a list of facts to hold tightly in the mind, more like a slow walk through the hidden life of the sleeping body. A walk from the last light of evening, down through the first soft layers of sleep, into the deep repair of the body, through the garden of memory, across the strange weather of dreams, and finally back to the pale edge of morning. You do not have to remember everything. You do not have to try. Just let the ideas pass through gently, like moonlight moving across a floor. The story begins before the first dream. It begins in that ordinary moment when the day is not quite finished, but something in you has already started to turn away from it. Maybe the room is dim. Maybe the house is quieter than it was an hour ago. Maybe your phone is face down, or charging across the room, or still glowing faintly beside you. Outside, depending on where you are, the world may be holding its own kind of night. Cars passing somewhere beyond the window. A dog barking once, then stopping. Pipes settling in the walls. The low hum of a refrigerator. The small, familiar sounds that tell the nervous system nothing urgent is happening now. And that matters, because your body does not fall asleep by command. You can close your eyes, you can turn off the lamp, you can decide that now is the time. But sleep itself arrives through invitation. The body has to believe, at least partly, that it is safe enough to let go. Long before modern bedrooms, long before pillows and curtains and alarm clocks, sleep was a vulnerable act. To sleep meant to stop scanning the horizon, to stop watching the shadows, to trust the shelter, the group, the fire, the cave, the nest, the branch, the burrow. That old history has not fully left us. Somewhere beneath thought, the body still asks the ancient question, is it safe enough now? And if the answer is close enough to yes, the first doors begin to open. One of the earliest signals is light, or rather, the fading of it. Your body is deeply tuned to the movement between brightness and darkness. Even in a world of electric lamps and midnight screens, part of you still belongs to sunrise and dusk. As evening comes on and light begins to soften, specialized cells in the eyes send messages inward. Not simply messages about what you can see, but messages about time. These signals travel to the brain's inner clock, the system that helps coordinate the daily rhythms of the body. You may not feel this clock ticking. It does not sound like anything, but it is there in the background, shaping hunger, alertness, body temperature, hormone patterns, and the slow pull towards sleep. As darkness gathers, the body may begin releasing melatonin. Melatonin is often called the sleep hormone But that phrase can make it sound stronger and simpler than it is. It does not knock you unconscious. It does not drag you into sleep by force. It is more like a dusk messenger, a chemical whisper that tells the body, night is arriving. The message is not, sleep now. It is softer than that. It says, prepare, lower the lights inside, let the edges blur, begin the descent, and then the body starts making small adjustments. Your core temperature may begin to dip, not dramatically, not like stepping into cold water, but by a subtle degree, a quiet cooling that helps make sleep possible. Your breathing may become a little more regular. Your muscles, especially around the face, jaw, shoulders, and hands, may begin to release tension you did not know you were holding. The forehead softens, the tongue rests, the fingers uncurl, even the eyes, beneath their lids, stop reaching so hard for the world. And still, the mind may resist, because the mind is often the last creature awake. It wanders back into conversations. It replays a sentence that sounded wrong. It opens tomorrow before tomorrow has come. It counts tasks. It tries to solve what cannot be solved tonight. This is one of the gentle difficulties of being human. The body can be tired. The room can be dark. The hour can be late. And still, the mind may keep a little lamp burning. But even that lamp begins to flicker. Thoughts lose their sharp corners. A worry that felt solid an hour ago becomes less like a stone and more like a cloud. A memory appears, then fades before it finishes. A word repeats for no reason. An image rises without being invited. You are not dreaming yet, but you are not fully awake either. You are standing near the shore. Behind you is the land of waking life, with its straight lines, its names, its clocks, its need to explain. Ahead of you is the dark water, and sleep is the tide coming in. At this stage, the body begins to loosen its relationship with the outside world. Sounds still arrive, but they may feel farther away. The room still exists, but it begins to matter less. The blanket has weight. The pillow has shape. The air has temperature. Yet your attention stops reaching for every detail. The brain is not turning off. It is changing priorities. During the day, the brain is often outward facing. It tracks faces, words, roads, screens, choices, risks, plans. It keeps a model of the world, updated moment by moment. But as sleep approaches, that outward model becomes less demanding. The inner world grows louder, not loud in volume, loud in presence. Fragments begin to drift up from below. A hallway from childhood, a blue room, a face you have not seen in years. The feeling of walking somewhere, though your body is still. A thought that becomes an image before you can finish thinking it. This borderland has many names in science and experience. Some call it the doorway between wakefulness and sleep. But you do not need to hold the term. The feeling itself is more important. It is the mind becoming porous. The firm wall between thinking and dreaming starts to thin. And if you listen closely, there is something comforting in that. For all day, you have had to be someone, a person with a schedule, a person with responsibilities, a person with a voice, a face, a history, a set of answers. But sleep asks less of you. It does not require you to perform the self. It lets identity loosen, not disappear completely, just loosen. Like a knot placed in warm water, This is one of the first kindnesses of the night. You do not have to hold yourself so tightly. The body knows how to begin, even when the mind does not, even when the day was imperfect, even when you forgot something, said too much, said too little, answered late, worried early, carried a private heaviness no one else could see. The body still knows the old path down. It has practiced this descent thousands of times. Every night is slightly different. But the doorway is ancient. Darkness, cooling, stillness, breath, release. And somewhere in that sequence, without ceremony, the first dream waits in the distance. Not yet visible, not yet formed, only waiting, like weather beyond the hills. Before it arrives, there is this quiet threshold. The last part of you that is still listening to the world. The first part of you that is already turning inward. And in that threshold, the body begins its night work. Now the first threshold has opened. The world has not vanished, but it has moved farther away. The room is still there. The blanket is still there. The body is still there. But the center of attention is beginning to sink. This next part of the journey is the descent beneath thought. It is not dramatic. It is not a fall. It is more like slipping below the surface of a dark lake, where sound becomes softer, light becomes dimmer, and the shape of the self begins to blur. There is a moment in falling asleep that almost no one remembers clearly. You may remember lying down. You may remember adjusting the pillow. You may remember deciding, perhaps for the third time, that you really should stop thinking now. And then, nothing precise. A gap, a soft break in the film. One moment, you are there, aware of the room and the dark shape of the ceiling. The next moment, you are somewhere else, or nowhere at all. This missing moment is ordinary, but it is also mysterious, because the self does not watch itself fall asleep. Not completely. The part of you that would record the descent is the very part that has to loosen and fade. It is like trying to see the exact instant a candle flame goes out in a dark room. You can watch closely. You can anticipate it. But when the darkness comes, the watcher changes too. As you descend beneath thought, the brain begins shifting through patterns of electrical activity. During waking life, especially when you are alert and engaged, the brain often carries faster rhythms. It has to. It is taking in the world, comparing, predicting, responding. But as sleep begins, those rhythms slow again. Not because the brain is failing, because the brain is entering a different mode. Imagine standing beside a river during the day. The surface is bright, broken by wind and sun. You can see glittering fragments everywhere. Quick flashes, small disturbances. Then, evening comes. The wind drops. The surface darkens. The river does not stop moving. It becomes smoother, deeper, harder to read from above. The sleeping brain is like that. Less glitter, more depth. In the first light stages of sleep, you may still be easy to wake. A sound, a touch, a change in the room can call you back. If someone speaks your name, you may rise quickly toward awareness, as if a hand has reached down through shallow water. But if nothing interrupts you, the descent continues. The muscles let go a little more. The breath becomes steadier. The heart may settle into a slower rhythm. Blood pressure can decrease during healthy sleep. The body is not abandoning control. It is moving from the sharp control of waking life into the quiet regulation of rest. There is a difference. Waking control feels like effort. Sleep regulation feels like trust. During the day, you may manage your posture, your expression, your timing, your words. You may hold your shoulders a little higher than you need to. You may keep your jaw prepared for speech. You may breathe shallowly without noticing. You may brace for the next message, the next decision, the next small demand. But in sleep, those instructions begin to lose authority. The face no longer has to arrange itself for anyone. The hands no longer have to prove usefulness. The spine no longer has to present you to the world. The body returns to being an animal body, warm, weighted, breathing, alive. Sometimes, just as you are drifting off, the body may suddenly twitch. A leg jerks, a shoulder jumps. You may feel, for a split second, as if you were falling. Then you wake, startled, perhaps even annoyed. This can feel strange, but for many people, it is a harmless part of the borderland between waking and sleep. The nervous system is changing states. Muscle tone is shifting. The brain and body are negotiating the descent. It is not always graceful. Even sleep has thresholds that creak. Then the body settles again. The pillow returns. The dark returns. The breath returns. And down you go. The descent is also shaped by sound. Not sound as information, but sound as atmosphere. A steady rain can become a wall between the sleeper and the world. A fan can become a soft mechanical ocean. Distant traffic can turn into a low river of movement beyond the room. Even silence has texture. It is not empty. It is the room holding still enough for the body to hear itself again. This is why certain sounds help some people sleep. They do not entertain the mind. They give the nervous system something predictable to lean against. Predictability is deeply soothing to the sleeping body. A sudden sound asks a question. A steady sound answers one. It says, nothing has changed. It says, the night is continuing. It says, you may stay where you are. The body listens for patterns, because patterns are one way of knowing safety. The repeated rhythm of breath, the repeated softness of rain, the repeated creak of a familiar house, the repeated shape of a bedtime ritual. Every repetition lays another stone on the path downward. In waking life, repetition can feel dull. We look for novelty, stimulation, surprise, but the body has another wisdom. It knows that not every hour should be new. Some hours should be familiar enough to disappear into. Sleep loves what the ambitious mind often undervalues: sameness, slowness, predictable darkness, the same blanket, the same corner of the room, the same gentle sound. The same message delivered in many forms. You are safe enough. You are safe enough. You are safe enough. And eventually, if the body believes it, the surface breaks. You sink below the last bright layer of thought. As sleep deepens, awareness becomes less like a beam of light and more like a mist. It no longer points cleanly at one thing. It spreads, thins, dissolves. You may pass through brief images, a street, a window, a word written on paper, a person turning away, a room that cannot exist, but somehow does. These images do not yet have the full story of dreams. They are more like sparks thrown up from the mind as it changes speed. Some vanish instantly. Some pull you with them. Some become the beginning of a dream without your permission. This is one of the strange mercies of sleep. You do not have to build it. You do not have to be good at it. You do not have to understand the mechanisms for them to work. The body carries you. The nervous system, which spent the day translating the world into signals, begins to turn its attention inward. Sensory gates partly close, not all the way. The sleeping body still listens, but the flood of ordinary information is reduced. Less light, less movement, less decision, less self, and beneath that reduction, another kind of richness appears. The richness of restoration, the richness of pattern, the richness of a body no longer spending so much energy pretending it is only a mind. Because during waking life, it is easy to forget the body. Not completely, of course. Pain reminds us. Hunger reminds us. Fatigue reminds us. Pleasure reminds us. But much of the day, attention lives in abstraction. Messages, plans, screens, language, memory, anticipation. The body becomes the vehicle that carries the thinking self around. Sleep reverses the arrangement. The thinking self fades. The body becomes central again. Breath by breath, it takes back the night. Your breathing is one of the clearest signs of this descent. When you are awake, breath is easily influenced by emotion. Anxiety can make it shallow. Concentration can make it pause. Sadness can make it heavy. Laughter can break it open. Speech can shape it into phrases. But as sleep arrives, breathing becomes less social. It no longer has to support conversation. It no longer has to hide feeling. It no longer has to match the pace of the room. It returns to rhythm. In, out, a small tide in the chest. The heart follows its own quieter pattern. It does not stop working, of course. It never has that luxury. But in many stages of sleep, the demands placed upon it soften. The body's chemistry shifts toward restoration. The urgency of waking life is lowered, and this lowering is not emptiness. It is preparation. A field must sometimes lie dark before it can grow. A tide must sometimes pull back before it can return. A creature must sometimes become still so that repair can find it. The descent beneath thought is the entrance to that stillness. But sleep is not one single place. It is a landscape with regions. Light sleep, deep sleep, dreaming sleep, brief awakenings you may never remember. Cycles that repeat through the night, each with its own texture, its own work. If you are still awake here, notice the strange comfort in this. Nothing in the sleeping body is random, in the simple way we often imagine. The night has patterns. It has cycles. It has repeated returns. It carries you down, brings you partly upward, lets dreams rise, lets deep quiet return, and then repeats the passage again. This is why the story of sleep is not a straight line. It is a tide, and like every tide, it leaves small changes behind. You do not simply fall asleep and remain in one unchanging state until morning. You travel quietly, repeatedly, without a map in your conscious hand. The first descent is only the beginning. It is the trailhead, the place where the waking world loses its claim. As you move deeper, the brain's slow waves may become more prominent. These slow waves are not dull. They are powerful, coordinated rhythms, like great dark swells, moving through the sleeping mind. In deep sleep, millions of neurons can enter patterns of activity and rest together, rising and falling in a kind of collective tide. From the outside, A sleeper may look still. From the inside, the brain is performing a vast choreography. This is one reason sleep can feel so complete when it is good. Not because nothing happened, because the right things happened without needing your supervision. There is humility in that. The conscious mind likes to believe it is in charge. It plans, names, judges, explains. It says, I will fix this. I will remember that. I will become better. I will control the outcome. But every night, it has to step aside. And when it does, the older systems continue. They do not ask for praise. They do not explain themselves in language. They simply were. A sleeping body is not a passive body. It is a body relieved, for a while, of the burden of performance. This is why the descent can feel frightening to some people and comforting to others. To sleep is to let go of the steering wheel. Most nights, we do this without thinking, but the act itself is profound. You surrender awareness, and something catches you. Not perfectly every night, not always easily. Sleep can be disrupted. The mind can stay too bright. The body can remain too alert. Stress can keep the old alarm systems listening for danger long after the room is safe. But when sleep does come, even lightly, it shows that some part of you still remembers how to trust the dark. That trust may begin in the smallest ways. A slower exhale, a heavier arm, a thought unfinished, a sound drifting away before you identify it. The sense that the room is moving farther from you, though you have not moved at all. Then the ordinary world loosens its outline. The ceiling is no longer important. The hour is no longer important. Even the question, am I asleep yet, begins to lose its meaning, because the one who asks is fading. And beneath that fading, the night opens. This is the descent beneath thought, the passage from doing into being, from holding into resting, from the bright, narrow path of attention into the wide, dark field of sleep. And deeper in that field, the repair crews are already gathering, quietly, patiently, waiting for the self to step out of the way. And once thought has stepped back, the body can begin a deeper kind of work. This is where sleep becomes more than rest. It becomes maintenance. It becomes repair. It becomes the quiet labor of life, continuing without your supervision. Deeper in the night, after the first descent has carried you below the busy surface of thought, the body begins to spend its darkness carefully. This is the part of sleep we often misunderstand. From the outside, a sleeping person appears inactive. The eyes are closed. The limbs are still. The face has lost the small expressions of daytime. No one is answering questions. No one is solving problems. No one is performing the visible work that the world tends to reward. And so we say, simply, that the person is resting. That is true, but it is not complete. Rest is not the absence of activity. Rest is activity turned inward. During deep sleep, the body becomes less like a machine powered down, and more like a house at night after the guests have left. The lights in the front rooms are off. The voices are gone. The chairs are empty. But somewhere in the back, someone is sweeping the floor. Someone is washing the dishes. Someone is opening windows, folding blankets, checking locks, setting the table for morning. The body has its own night staff, quiet repair crews that do not need your attention to begin. Cells continue their private labor. Tissues that carried you through the day enter phases of maintenance. Hormones shift in their timing and influence. The immune system, never fully asleep, adjusts its watch. Energy is redistributed. Temperature changes. The chemistry of stress may soften. If the night is kind, nothing about this is theatrical. Most of the work is humble. That is part of its beauty. A muscle fiber does not announce its repair. A cell does not ask to be thanked for balancing its tiny inner world. A heartbeat does not explain how many times it has carried you through your own forgetting. The body simply continues, and in sleep, it is given a little more room to continue well. Think of the day as weather. Every hour leaves something behind. A hurried morning leaves tension in the shoulders. A long conversation leaves traces in the nervous system. A difficult message changes the breath. A bright screen keeps the eyes and brain alert. A meal, a walk, a worry, a laugh, a disappointment, a sudden kindness, a task finished, a task left open. All of it passes through the body. The body is not separate from experience. It is where experience lands. By night, there is residue, not just emotional residue, though that matters. There is physical residue too. Metabolic byproducts, microscopic wear, inflammatory signals, tiny imbalances, 1,000 little adjustments waiting to be made. Sleep gives the body a different kind of economy. During waking life, energy has to be spent outward. You move through space. You respond to sound. You regulate posture. You digest, speak, decide, notice, avoid, reach, remember. Even sitting still, you are managing a world. But in sleep, some outward costs are reduced. The body can reassign attention, not conscious attention, biological attention. It can turn toward repair. One of the most comforting things about this is that you do not have to direct it. You do not need to say, repair the muscles now. You do not need to say, balance this hormone, support that immune signal, lower this unnecessary tension, soften this system, clear that pathway. The body does not wait for language. It understands chemistry. It understands timing. It understands rhythm. Deep sleep is especially important in this night economy. It is often associated with physical restoration, with the body's quieter forms of rebuilding and regulation. In this state, the brain's activity slows into large, coordinated waves, and the body can enter a depth of rest that feels, afterward, almost like being returned from far below the surface. You may not remember deep sleep. In fact, that is part of its nature. It is not full of stories. It is not usually bright with dreams. It is the dark soil of the night. Things grow there without needing to be seen. Growth hormone, which supports tissue repair and other restorative processes, is often released in relation to deep sleep. The immune system also follows daily rhythms, and sleep helps support its ability to respond and regulate. These processes are complex, and no single night of sleep can be reduced to one simple effect. The body is not a vending machine where 1 hour produces one benefit. It is more like an ecosystem. Everything influences everything else. Sleep touches metabolism. Metabolism touches temperature. Temperature touches comfort. Comfort touches depth of sleep. Stress touches breathing. Breathing touches the heart. The heart touches the brain. The brain touches memory. Memory touches emotion. Emotion touches the body again. Round and round it goes. This is why sleep can feel so mysterious from the inside. You do one simple thing. You lie down and disappear for a while, and an entire web of processes begins shifting beneath awareness. The body repairs not as a single worker with a single tool, but as a whole nocturnal village. Some workers mend, some clean, some sort, some carry messages, some stand guard, some wait until the right phase of the night before they begin. Even the lowering of body temperature has a role in this village. As night deepens, the body's core temperature often drops as part of the sleep rhythm. Warm hands and feet can help release heat. A cooler core can support the descent into sleep. This is one reason a room that is too hot may feel restless, while a slightly cool room can feel inviting. The body likes gradients. It likes signals. It likes dusk outside and dusk inside. When those signals are clear, the night work has an easier path. But modern life often blurs them. Bright rooms late into the evening, blue-white screens close to the eyes, meals at irregular hours, stress carried into bed like a second blanket, noise, notifications, the strange expectation that a body should sprint all day and then fall instantly into stillness. No wonder sleep sometimes hesitates. The body is ancient. The world we have built around it is very new, and yet, even now, the old systems try. They take whatever darkness they can find. They use whatever quiet we give them. Even an imperfect night may contain small repairs, a little softening, a little sorting, a little return. This is worth remembering gently, without turning sleep into another performance too perfect. Because many people become anxious about sleep. They hear how important it is, and then the importance itself becomes pressure. They lie in bed trying to sleep correctly, deeply, efficiently, beautifully. They monitor the night. They judge the body. They check the clock. They wonder how badly tomorrow will go if sleep does not arrive soon. But the body does not sleep better under surveillance. Sleep prefers invitation, a darkening, a cooling, a letting, a sense that, for now, nothing more has to be solved. The repair crews work best when the manager leaves the building. There is another repair that happens more quietly than the repair of tissue, the repair of rhythm. Modern life can scatter rhythm. Meals at different hours, light at the wrong time, work carried late into the dark, worry beginning before sunrise, stimulation arriving in the palm of the hand whenever the mind feels even slightly empty. The body can adapt to much of this, but adaptation has a cost. Sleep is one way the body tries to gather rhythm back together. The heart finds its slower language. Breathing returns to a pattern older than speech. Temperature follows its night curve. Hormones rise and fall like distant tides. Even the digestive system, often asked to work around irregular schedules, enters its own quieter timing. You might imagine the body as an orchestra after a long day of every instrument practicing separately. The violin has been playing one melody, the drum another, the flute another, the bass another. Each was doing its own necessary work. But by evening, the room is full of scattered sound. Then, sleep arrives like a conductor lowering the hands, not to silence the orchestra, to bring it back into relation. The rhythm of the heart does not belong only to the heart. The rhythm of breath does not belong only to the lungs. The rhythm of temperature does not belong only to the skin. Each rhythm listens to the others. And in the deep hours, if the night is allowed to do its work, the body becomes less like a crowd and more like a choir. This is not something you can force by thinking about it. In fact, thinking too hard can become one more instrument playing too loudly. The repair of rhythm asks for the opposite, a willingness to stop conducting consciously. a willingness to let the old music find itself again. So perhaps one of the kindest ways to understand sleep is not as a task, but as permission. Permission for the muscles to stop holding the shape of effort. Permission for the heart to beat without being hurried by fear. Permission for the immune system to continue its quiet conversations. Permission for the brain to step away from the bright front desk of consciousness. Permission for the body to become a body again. There is something deeply tender about this. Every day, you ask the body to carry your plans, carry your disappointments, carry your errands, carry your ambition, carry your grief, carry your hunger and your restraint, your laughter and your silence, your old injuries and your new hopes. The body carries all of it. And then, at night, it asks for darkness, not as a luxury, as part of its design. In deep sleep, the body may reduce the volume on certain stress responses. The sympathetic nervous system, associated with alertness and action, can give more room to the body's rest systems. Again, this is not absolute. Sleep is dynamic. The body moves through many states. But in healthy rest, there is often a shift away from daytime urgency. You can imagine it as a town after a storm. During the storm, everyone was busy. Windows rattled. Branches fell. Water moved through the streets. People watched, reacted, protected what they could. Then night comes. The wind lowers. Lanterns appear. Someone checks the bridge. Someone clears the road. Someone finds the broken fence. Someone brings soup to a neighbor. No single act repairs the whole town, but together, the town begins to return. Your body does this in miniature, 1,000 times, without ceremony. And the repair is not only physical in the narrow sense. The boundary between physical and emotional is never as firm as we pretend. A calmer body can make room for a calmer mind. A rested nervous system can meet the world with a little less defensiveness. A heart that has spent the night under lower demand may greet the morning differently. A brain that has passed through deep sleep may hold yesterday with a little more distance. This does not mean sleep solves every sorrow. It does not. Some grief is still there in the morning. Some problems remain real. Some pain requires help, time, treatment, conversation, change. Sleep is not a magic eraser, but it is one of the body's oldest forms of support. A nightly vote in favor of continuing. That is not small. Think of how faithful the body is, even when you are frustrated with it, even when you criticize it, even when you ignore its signals until they become loud, even when you push past fatigue, delay meals, tighten your jaw, hold your breath, stay up too late, ask for one more hour of usefulness. Still, when given the chance, the body turns toward repair. It does not demand that you deserve it. It simply begins. This is part of what makes sleep feel almost merciful. You do not have to earn every heartbeat. You do not have to understand every cell. You do not have to personally supervise the rebuilding of the self. At some point, you are allowed to lie down. At some point, the darkness is allowed to help. The repair crews know their routes. They move through blood and tissue, through chemical messages, through temperature and rhythm, through the soft architecture of the sleeping brain. And while they work, you are held in a state that looks like stillness, but the stillness is full, like a winter field under snow, like a seed beneath soil, like a tide paused before its return. This is the body's hidden industry, not loud, not visible, not under your command, but faithful. Night after night, it tries to bring you back from the wear of being awake. And when the repair has gone deep enough, another kind of work begins to rise. Not in the muscles, not in the skin, but in the strange, living archive of memory. Because the body does not only repair what was strained, it also asks what should be carried forward and what, gently, can be released. But the body does not only repair tissue, it also tends the living archive of experience. Every day leaves fragments behind. A sentence, a worry, a face, a mistake, a small kindness, a problem that did not get solved, a feeling that arrived too quickly to understand. At night, some of these fragments are carried into the garden of memory. Memory has a different shape at night. During the day, memory can feel like a tool. You use it to find your keys, to remember a password, to recognize a face, to hold a sentence long enough to answer it, to know where you are, what you promised, what you meant to buy, who you meant to call, which road leads home. Daytime memory is practical. It wears shoes. It checks the time. It helps you move through the visible world. But at night, memory becomes something stranger and more organic. Less like a filing cabinet, more like a garden. A garden does not keep everything. It cannot. Leaves fall. Some seeds take root. Some are eaten by birds. Some are carried by wind to places no one planned. Some branches are pruned so the tree can grow in a healthier direction. Some flowers bloom only after dark. The sleeping brain seems to do something like this with experience. It does not preserve the entire day perfectly. It could not, and perhaps it should not. Imagine remembering every detail with equal force. Every passing sign, every background sound, every unimportant sentence, every advertisement, every doorway, every slight discomfort, every tiny change in light. A mind that remembered everything might not feel gifted. It might feel crowded. Forgetting is not always failure. Sometimes forgetting is how the mind keeps space open. During sleep, especially across certain stages, the brain is involved in memory consolidation. That means some experiences, skills, facts, or emotional patterns may be stabilized, strengthened, connected, or integrated over time. The details are complex, and science is still learning the full story. But the broad idea is simple enough to feel. The day gives you fragments. The night asks what they mean, not in words necessarily, not as a judge sitting at a desk, more like a gardener walking through rows in the dark. This one matters. This one can fade. This one connects to something older. This one still carries fear. This one may be useful later. This one was only noise. The hippocampus, a structure deep in the brain, plays an important role in forming certain kinds of memory. You might think of it as a temporary holding place for parts of the day, especially new experiences that have not yet been woven fully into longer-term networks. Again, the real biology is far more intricate than any metaphor, but metaphor helps us listen. The hippocampus is not a librarian in a little room. It is living tissue, dynamic and active, working with many other brain regions. But as an image, you might imagine it holding the fresh leaves of the day in a basket. A conversation, a street corner, a line from a book, the smell of rain, the way someone paused before answering, the mistake you kept replaying, the small success you almost forgot to enjoy. At night, these fresh leaves are turned over. Some are pressed into memory. Some are composted, Some become part of the soil. This is one reason sleep matters so much for learning. When you practice something, study something, or live through something new, the waking experience is only part of the process. The sleeping brain continues to work with the material. A pianist does not only learn at the piano. A language student does not only learn over the page. A child does not only grow in the visible hours. The night participates, quietly, without applause. There is a kind of rehearsal that seems to happen in the sleeping brain. Patterns from waking life can be reactivated. Neural pathways involved in new learning may be strengthened. The brain may revisit parts of experience, not like a person watching a movie, but like an ecosystem adjusting its trails after many feet have passed through. A faint path becomes clearer. An unnecessary path grows over. A dangerous path is marked. A familiar path becomes easier to find. This is why, sometimes, something that felt impossible at night feels slightly more possible in the morning. Not because sleep gave you a miracle, because the mind had time to reorganize. Perhaps you have felt this. A problem looked tangled before bed. You were too tired to solve it. Every attempt made the knot tighter. So eventually, willingly or not, you stopped. Then morning came, and the knot had changed. Maybe it was not gone, but you could see one thread, one beginning, one next step. This is one of the quiet gifts of sleep. It allows the brain to work without the interference of conscious effort. During the day, effort can be useful. We need focus. We need discipline. We need the ability to hold a problem and turn it in the light. But some forms of understanding do not respond to force. They need darkness. They need looseness. They need the mind to stop gripping. The garden grows when you are not pulling on the leaves. Memory at night is not only about facts and skills. It is also about emotion. The emotional charge of the day can be reshaped during sleep. Again, not erased, not magically healed, but sometimes softened, integrated, placed in a wider context. A harsh moment may still be remembered in the morning, but perhaps with a little less heat. A fear may still exist, but not as close to the skin. A disappointment may still matter, but not fill the whole room. Sleep can help separate the feeling from the raw immediacy of the event. It can give yesterday a little distance. This is why a night of poor sleep can make emotions feel sharper. Without enough rest, the mind may have less ability to regulate what it carries. Small problems can feel large. Ordinary demands can feel personal. The nervous system may meet the day already braced. Most people know this without needing a study. After a bad night, the world has harder edges. After a good night, even if life is still difficult, there may be a small margin between you and the difficulty. A breath of space, a little more room to choose. In the garden of memory, sleep tends not only to what you remember, but how you remember it. This is a subtle distinction. Two people can carry the same event differently depending on how it has been processed, repeated, slept on, spoken about, or left untouched. The sleeping brain is one part of that processing. It does not decide your whole life. It does not rewrite your story on its own, but it participates in the ongoing editing of experience. Every night, the self is very slightly revised. You are not exactly the same person in the morning as you were when you closed your eyes. Most changes are too small to notice, but small does not mean meaningless. A river changes a stone by touching it again and again. Sleep changes memory the same way. Night after night, cycle after cycle, touch after touch. The memories that remain are not perfect recordings. They are living reconstructions. Each time a memory is recalled, it can be colored by the present. Mood, context, age, knowledge, desire, and fear all leave their fingerprints. This may sound unsettling, but it is also what allows growth. If memory were fixed like glass, we would be trapped in every old interpretation. Because memory is living, it can be integrated. A painful lesson can become wisdom. An embarrassing moment can become a story. A loss can become part of love rather than only part of pain. A childhood scene can change meaning when seen from older eyes. The garden is never finished, and in sleep, the gardener returns. There is another tender truth here. The brain must choose. It cannot carry every detail forward with equal weight. So memory becomes selective. It favors what is repeated, what is emotional, what is useful, what fits existing patterns, what the body marked as important. This is why the mind may remember the feeling of a moment long after the exact facts have faded. You may forget the date. You may forget the words. You may forget what someone was wearing, but you remember the warmth in the room, the silence after the sentence, the way your stomach dropped, the way relief arrived, the way a song seemed to belong to that summer forever. Emotion is one way memory says, pay attention. Some memories are ordinary enough that we hardly respect them. The color of the sky on the drive home, the exact tone of a friend's laugh, the way steam rose from a cup, the smell of a hallway, the small relief of taking off shoes, the shape of evening light on a wall. These fragments may not seem important while they happen. They are not milestones. They do not announce themselves as memories. They simply pass through the senses and disappear into the day. But sometimes, years later, a single fragment returns. Not the whole day, just the light, just the sound, just the smell of rain on pavement, and suddenly an entire season opens. This is how memory often works. It does not always return through the front door of fact. Sometimes it enters through a side window, carrying a feeling before it carries a story. Sleep may help decide which small fragments remain available to become those future doorways, not by choosing sentimentally, not by knowing what you will one day miss, but by strengthening certain patterns and allowing others to fade. There is a sadness in that, and a kindness. So much of life vanishes. So much must vanish. If every ordinary morning stayed vivid forever, the mind would drown in detail. And yet, enough remains. A laugh, a blue cup, a street after rain, a hand waving from a doorway, the first cold breath of autumn. The brain does not save the entire world. It saves pieces. And sometimes, the pieces are enough to bring the world back. At night, those emotional tags may be revisited. Some remain strong, some soften, some connect to older memories, some become part of dreams. A dream may take a worry from work and dress it as a train station. It may take loneliness and turn it into a house with too many rooms. It may take anticipation and turn it into flying. It may take a face from 10 years ago and place it beside someone you saw yesterday. This does not mean every dream has a hidden message waiting to be decoded. The mind is not always speaking in riddles. Sometimes it is simply mixing weather, but the materials often come from memory. The dream world grows from the garden, and not only from the fresh plants of yesterday. Old roots remain. You may dream of a school you have not entered in decades, a grandparent's kitchen, A road near a childhood home. A person you no longer know how to contact. A room that never existed but somehow feels familiar. Memory is not stored in one place like objects in a drawer. It is distributed across networks, across sensory traces, emotional associations, fragments of meaning. That is why a single smell, sound, or image can awaken more than the thing itself. It awakens a whole weather system. The question is not simply why memory is strange. The question is what sleep does with that strangeness. It tends it. It rearranges. It lets some things fall. This letting go is not always easy. Many people bring unfinished thoughts to bed. An unresolved conversation. A mistake. A future decision. The mind circles them because incompletion has a kind of gravity. The unfinished asks to be remembered, but sleep cannot always begin while the mind is still standing over every open loop. This is why writing something down before bed can sometimes feel calming, not because the note solves the issue, but because it tells the mind, this has been placed somewhere. You do not have to hold it with your whole body all night. The garden has a gate, a list, a sentence, a whispered promise to return tomorrow. These can sometimes help close it. Then, sleep can do what sleep does best. Not solve every problem, not make every memory beautiful, but sort the living material, one small mercy at a time. There is a humility in accepting that some of your own mind is cared for beyond your awareness. You do not consciously choose which neural patterns reactivate in sleep. You do not supervise the transfer of memory traces. You do not instruct the brain how to integrate a day. You offer conditions, darkness, time, safety, repetition. Then, the deeper systems do their work, like seeds underground, like roots finding water, like a forest repairing itself after wind. And perhaps this is why sleep deprivation can feel so personal. It is not only tiredness. It can feel like losing access to the night gardener. The mind becomes cluttered. The emotional paths grow tangled. The smallest tasks feel overgrown. But when sleep returns, even imperfectly, some order may begin again. Not all at once, not as a dramatic transformation, but quietly, a little weeding, a little watering, a little clearing of the path. In the garden of memory, the night does not preserve everything. It preserves what it can. It releases what it must. It connects what belongs together. It softens what has been too sharp to carry raw. And as the night moves onward, some of these memories begin to change form. They lose the straight lines of waking life. They become image, symbol, motion, weather, and when memory loosens its daytime shape, dream begins to form. This is the part of sleep that feels least like science and most like weather. Images gather, old places return, impossible rooms open, feelings put on masks. The mind begins speaking in scenes instead of sentences. The garden gives way to dream, and dream is not a straight road. It does not obey the grammar of waking life. In the day, things usually pretend to follow order. A door opens into the next room. A sentence begins, moves through its middle, and ends. A person is one age. A house stays where it is. The sky remains above you. Your hands are your hands. But in dreams, the world is made of softer laws. A hallway can become a forest. A childhood friend can speak with the voice of someone you met last week. A city can fold into a school. A staircase can rise and fall at the same time. You can be yourself and also not quite yourself. You can know something without being told. You can feel grief for a person who never existed. You can run without moving, fly without wings, return to a place that was never on any map, and still feel, somehow, that you have been there before. Dreams are the weather of the sleeping mind. They gather from pressure systems you may not fully see. Memory, emotion, desire, fear, body sensation, old associations, random sparks, the residue of the day, the deep climate of a life. And then, in the dark, they move, not always with meaning, not always without it. A dream is not a newspaper report from the unconscious. It is not always a secret message waiting to be translated into one clean sentence. Sometimes, a dream is only the mind's night weather passing through. Fog, rain, heat, lightning, wind over an old field, a storm that seems enormous while it happens, and vanishes almost completely by breakfast. Still, even weather can reveal something. Not a prophecy, not a command, but a condition, the atmosphere of the inner world. As the night cycles onward, the body moves through different phases of sleep. One of them is often called REM sleep, because the eyes move rapidly beneath closed lids. During this state, dreaming can become vivid. The brain is active in particular ways, while most voluntary muscles are kept still, as if the body wisely lowers the bridge between dream and action. This, too, is a kind of protection. Imagine if every dream movement became a waking movement. Every chase, every leap, every argument, every fall, every embrace. The body would spend the night acting out storms that were meant to pass through image, not muscle. So sleep creates a separation. The dream can run, the body can remain. A theater opens in the mind, while the sleeping animal lies quiet in the dark. There is something almost miraculous in that arrangement. You can cross impossible landscapes, and still the hand rests on the sheet. You can speak to the dead, and still the room is silent. You can climb a mountain made of glass, and still the feet are warm under the blanket. Inside, a world. Outside, a body at rest. Dreams may help the brain work with emotion. Scientists are still careful about exactly how to describe this, because dreaming is complicated, and no single theory explains every dream. But many researchers suspect that sleep, including dreaming sleep, plays a role in emotional processing. This makes intuitive sense. The day gives us more feeling than we can fully digest while we are awake. Some feelings are too quick, some are too mixed, some are too inconvenient. You cannot always pause in the middle of life to understand what just happened inside you. You receive the news, and then you have to answer an email. You feel hurt, and then you have to drive home. You are moved by beauty, and then the phone rings. You become angry, and then you must remain polite. You miss someone, but the meeting begins. Life does not always give emotion enough room to complete itself, so some of it waits. Not deliberately, not neatly. It waits in the body, in the breath, in the stomach, in the throat, in the nervous system, in the little unfinished gestures of the heart. At night, when the outer world is dimmed, those unfinished feelings may find imagery. A worry becomes a road you cannot quite follow. A responsibility becomes a suitcase you keep losing. A desire becomes a locked garden. A fear becomes water rising in a familiar room. A longing becomes a train pulling away from a platform. A hope becomes the ability to float above the trees. The dream does not say, here is your emotion, labeled and explained. Dreams also borrow from the body itself. A blanket too warm may become a desert. A foot outside the covers may become snow. A sound in the hallway may become footsteps in a dream street. A full bladder may become a search for a bathroom that never appears. The dreaming mind is not sealed away from the sleeping body. It listens to the body's signals and turns some of them into story. This is one reason dreams can feel both invented and strangely physical. The body speaks in sensation. The dream answers in image. Pressure becomes architecture. Temperature becomes weather. A heartbeat becomes urgency. A breath becomes wind. A need becomes a journey. And because the dream does not have to explain itself, it can transform these signals with wild freedom. A small discomfort becomes a mountain. A faint sound becomes a visitor. A shift in position becomes travel. The dream is not lying when it does this. It is translating, badly sometimes, beautifully sometimes, but translating all the same. The sleeping mind is like a painter working in a room full of half-heard music, old photographs, changing temperatures, and messages arriving from the body through the floorboards. It uses whatever reaches it. This can make dreams feel chaotic, but it also makes them intimate. They are made from you, from yesterday's residue, from old memory, from the body's present needs, from the nervous system's private weather, from signals too faint to become waking thoughts. Even the strangest dream has passed through the house of the self. It paints, it stages, it dissolves, it exaggerates, it turns the invisible into weather. This is why dreams can feel so strange and still so emotionally accurate. The facts may be wrong. The feeling may be true. You wake and think, none of that made sense. And yet something about it stays with you. A sadness, a relief, a confusion, a warmth, a question. It is possible for a dream to be nonsense in structure and meaningful in tone. Like music from another room, you cannot hear every word, but you know whether it is a lullaby or a warning. Some dreams vanish instantly because the waking brain is not built to hold them well. You wake with a full scene in your mind, reach for it, and it breaks apart. Within seconds, all that remains is one image, one color, one impossible phrase. This can feel frustrating, but perhaps it is also natural. Dreams belong partly to a state you are leaving. To bring them fully into waking life is like trying to carry mist in your hands. A little moisture remains. The shape does not. Other dreams stay for years, not because they were clear, sometimes because they were charged. The dream where you were back in the old house. The dream where someone forgave you. The dream where you were late and could not find the room. The dream where you flew. The dream where the person you lost was alive again, sitting at a table, ordinary as daylight. These dreams remain because they touch something deep, not necessarily something mystical. Deep can also mean emotional, old, repeated, unresolved, loved. The dreaming mind draws from the garden of memory, but it does not respect the fences. It lets roots cross. A memory from childhood may grow beside yesterday's anxiety. An old shame may wear the face of a stranger. A current hope may appear in the architecture of a school hallway. This is why dream places are so often blended places. Half home, half airport, half office, half forest, half real, half invented. The brain is not bound to geography. It is working with associations. It asks, what feels like what? What belongs near this feeling? what image can carry this pressure? And because the sleeping brain is freed from the strict supervision of waking logic, it can answer wildly. A bird becomes a letter. A door becomes a decision. A storm becomes grief. A river becomes time. A room with no exit becomes the feeling of being trapped, even if no such room has ever existed. Dreaming is one of the places where the mind proves it is not only a calculator, it is an image maker, a weather maker, a night animal that thinks in scenes. During REM sleep, the brain can be highly active. Some regions involved in emotion and visual imagery may be engaged, while parts involved in strict rational control may be less dominant than they are when awake. This may help explain why bizarre dream events feel acceptable while they happen. In a dream, you rarely stop and say, "This cannot be right." You accept the impossible because the part of the mind that questions reality is not holding the same authority. This can be unsettling, but it can also be freeing. For a little while, the mind is allowed to make worlds without asking permission from physics. And maybe that is useful. Not because every dream solves a problem, but because loosened association can reveal connections that waking thought might miss. Artists, scientists, musicians, and ordinary tired people have all woken with fragments that mattered. A melody, a phrase, a new angle on a problem, the sense that something was possible after all. Most dreams do not become inventions. Most vanish, but the dreaming state reminds us that the mind can combine materials in ways that waking discipline cannot always reach. It is a workshop without straight walls, a theater without a stage manager, a sky where weather systems meet. Of course, not all dreams are gentle. Some are anxious, some are repetitive, some are dark. Nightmares can leave the body shaken, heart pounding, breath fast, muscles tense. They can bring fear into the room, even after the dream has ended. For sleep content, we do not need to dwell long in that fear, but we can acknowledge it softly. Sometimes the weather inside is stormy. Sometimes the nervous system is trying to process danger, stress, memory, or uncertainty. Sometimes the dream exaggerates a fear until it becomes visible. And sometimes, like weather, it passes because it passes. If a person has frequent distressing nightmares or sleep disruption, that is not something a bedtime story should pretend to fix. Real suffering deserves real support. But for ordinary dreams, even uneasy ones, there can be comfort in remembering that images are not always instructions. A dream can be intense without being a prophecy. A dream can be strange without being a sign that something is wrong. A dream can be the mind's way of moving emotional air through the house, opening windows, slamming a few doors, letting pressure shift. And after the storm, another cycle comes. The body turns, the breath changes. The sleeper moves through the architecture of the night again. Light sleep, deep sleep, dreaming sleep, small awakenings. Back down, back through, again and again. The night circles. We often imagine sleep as one long tunnel, but it is more like a coastline. The tide comes in, pulls back, comes in again. Each cycle leaves something behind and carries something away. Dreams may appear more vividly in some parts of the night than others. Toward morning, REM periods can lengthen, and dreams may become more elaborate or easier to remember if you wake from them. This is why early morning can feel crowded with dream images. as if the mind were painting more quickly, just before dawn. In that half-light, the border between dream and waking can be thin. You may wake from a dream and still feel its atmosphere around you. The room is real, the pillow is real, the morning is beginning, but the dream has not fully left. For a few seconds, two worlds overlap, the invented one and the ordinary one. Then, the ordinary world becomes heavier. The ceiling returns, the body returns, the name of the day returns, and the dream folds itself away. Sometimes it leaves a gift, a feeling, a warning softened into awareness, a memory you had not visited, a creative fragment, a strange comfort, a final image that stays with you like a feather found on a path. Other times, it leaves nothing you can name, only the sense that the mind has traveled, and maybe that is enough. The weather of dreams does not need to be mastered to be meaningful. It does not need to be controlled to be part of the night's work. You are allowed to dream without interpreting, allowed to wake without solving, allowed to let the images dissolve. The sleeping brain has its own reasons for making clouds, and while those clouds pass across the inward sky, the body below remains faithful, breathing, regulating, listening, keeping you mostly still, keeping you mostly safe. Because even in dreams, even in the wildest theater of the mind, some older part of you is still watching the edges of the dark, not with fear, with care. And this brings us to another quiet truth of sleep. You disappear from the waking world, but the animal inside you never fully leaves its post. Yet even inside dreams, the body does not abandon you. Something older remains near the door, not fully awake, not fully asleep, but listening. This is the quiet animal inside you, the part that knows sleep must be deep enough to restore, but light enough to return if the world truly calls. Even in sleep, you are not unguarded. This may be one of the most comforting truths of the night. You let go of the day. You surrender ordinary awareness. You stop watching the room. You stop choosing your thoughts. You stop managing your face, your words, your posture, your place in the social world. And yet, beneath all that surrender, something remains awake enough. Not the busy self, not the self that checks the time, not the self that answers messages or remembers appointments. Something older, the quiet animal inside you. The body that existed before your plans, the nervous system that learned across a very long history that sleep must be deep enough to restore you, but light enough to return you if the world truly calls. This balance is delicate. Too much vigilance, and sleep becomes shallow. Too little, and the sleeper would be helpless to important signals. So the body makes a compromise. It closes many gates, but not all of them. It lowers the lantern, but does not put out the last coal. A sleeping brain still responds to sound, not every sound equally familiar. Steady noises may fade into the background, the hum of a fan, rain against the window, distant traffic, the low breathing of someone nearby. Sounds the brain has judged, over time, as part of the safe environment. But a sudden unfamiliar sound can reach deeper. A sharp knock, glass breaking, a child calling, your own name. The brain seems especially tuned to meaningful signals. Even during sleep, it is not listening the way waking attention listens, with full interpretation and deliberate thought. It is more like a night watchman moving through fog, responding not to every leaf, but to the crack of a branch where no branch should crack. This does not mean sleep is weak. It means sleep is intelligent. The body knows that safety is not the same as total disconnection. You can see this in other animals too. A deer rests, but its ears remain part of the night. A bird sleeps, but its body knows the branch. A dog dozes, but a strange footstep changes everything. A cat appears completely dissolved into sleep, then opens one eye at the smallest shift in the room. Humans have built beds and walls and locks and alarms, but the nervous system is older than all of them. It still carries some memory of open ground, some memory of firelight, some memory of sleeping near others, some memory of needing to wake quickly if the dark changed shape. This is not something to fear. It is something to understand gently. Your body is not foolish when it needs safety to sleep. It is ancient. The sleeping body also keeps track of temperature. Too hot and sleep can become restless. Too cold and the body may tighten or wake. Throughout the night, the nervous system continues adjusting blood flow, skin temperature, sweating, shivering, blanket seeking, curling, uncurling. You may not remember these adjustments. You may wake in a different position than the one you chose. The body has been negotiating comfort without asking your conscious permission. This is another sign of care. The body does not simply abandon you in darkness. It tends the shelter. It checks the climate. It shifts the weight. It rolls you away from discomfort. It pulls a knee upward. It turns the head. It changes the breath. It does small practical things all night long. The body is humble in its intelligence. It does not explain why you turned over. It just turns. It does not write a report about pressure on the shoulder. It moves the shoulder. It does not wake you fully for every small correction. It protects sleep by solving what it can quietly. This is perhaps one reason a comfortable sleep environment matters. The room becomes part of the nervous system's conversation with the night. Darkness says, less scanning now. Coolness says, the body may lower its inner heat. Quiet says, no urgent pattern. A familiar blanket says, known shelter. A steady routine says, we have survived this descent before. The body loves cues that repeat, not because it is boring, because repetition can mean safety. A bedtime ritual, even a simple one, is like a path worn through grass. At first, the body may not notice, but over time, the sequence becomes familiar. Dim the light, wash the face, set down the phone, turn back the blanket, hear the same soft sound, read a page, breathe. The body begins to learn. This is the road down. We know this road. We have taken it before. In the natural world, many creatures depend on rhythm. Migration, feeding, flowering, hibernation, mating, waking, sleeping. Life is full of clocks that do not look like clocks. Your body is one of them. A living clock, a weather station, a listening animal, a small ecosystem of signals trying to stay in relationship with the larger world. When modern life disrupts those signals, sleep can become confused. If the room is bright at midnight, part of the body may believe the day is not finished. If stressful work continues under the blanket, part of the nervous system may remain at its post. If the phone keeps offering novelty, the brain may keep reaching outward. If caffeine lingers, if noise rises, if the body is too warm, if worries remain unplaced, the descent may be delayed. But this should not become another reason for self-blame. The point is not to control sleep perfectly. The point is to understand that sleep is relational. It happens between the body and its environment, between the nervous system and the room, between ancient biology and modern habit. Between trust and alertness, you do not force an animal to feel safe by scolding it. You make the clearing quieter. You lower your voice. You move slowly. You let it come closer when it is ready. The body is not so different. The quiet animal inside you responds to tone. The quiet animal inside you also understands darkness differently than the thinking mind does. The thinking mind may fill darkness with stories. What if I cannot sleep? What if tomorrow is difficult? What if something is wrong? But the animal body knows that darkness can also be shelter. Aden is dark. A nest is shadowed. Soil is dark around the seed. The inside of the body is dark. And life continues there without fear of darkness. Blood moves in darkness. Cells divide in darkness. The heart keeps its red rhythm in darkness. The womb, where every human body begins, is dark. So the body does not only know darkness as threat, it also knows darkness as enclosure, protection, beginning, and rest. Modern life often teaches the mind to keep everything lit. We light our rooms, our screens, our streets, our thoughts. We make ourselves available to brightness long after sunset. We carry little suns in our hands and ask the nervous system to ignore them. But the body remembers older agreements. Light for waking, dark for repair, light for reaching, dark for returning. When you make the room a little darker, you are not only removing brightness, you are speaking an ancient language. The body still understands. You are saying, the day has ended. You are saying, no more performance now. You are saying, come back to the den. And the quiet animal, if it can, listens to pattern, to light, to warmth, to the emotional climate of the evening. A harsh inner voice can be a kind of noise. A gentle one can be a kind of shelter. This matters because many people approach sleep with frustration. Why am I still awake? Why can't I just sleep? What is wrong with me? But the animal body does not soften under accusation. It softens under safety. So if sleep is slow to arrive, perhaps the first response is not command, but companionship. You are still here. The night is still here. The body is trying. Let us make the room a little darker. Let us make the breath a little easier. Let us not turn this into a battle. Even wakefulness, held gently, can become part of the descent. The body also keeps watch from within. It monitors breathing. It responds to changes in carbon dioxide and oxygen. It adjusts heart rhythm. It coordinates swallowing, position, temperature, and countless small processes that keep life steady while consciousness is away. This is astonishing when you really consider it. Every night, you hand over the steering of the body to systems you cannot see. And they know what to do. Not always perfectly. Bodies can struggle. Sleep disorders exist. Breathing can be disrupted. Pain can interrupt rest. Anxiety can keep systems too alert. These realities deserve care and, when needed, professional help. But beneath ordinary sleep, there is still a profound competence. The body has been practicing survival since before you had words, before you had opinions about yourself, before you knew your own reflection. The body knew how to breathe, how to startle, how to root, how to cry, how to sleep. The quiet animal inside you is not primitive in the sense of being crude. It is primitive in the sense of being first, foundational, original. It is the layer that does not care how impressive you were today. It cares whether you are safe, fed, warm enough, cool enough, connected enough, able to let down your guard. It cares about rhythm. It cares about recovery. It cares about mourning. This animal body is also social. Human sleep evolved in the presence of others. For much of our history, sleeping near trusted people meant protection. Even now, many people sleep differently, depending on whether they feel alone, accompanied, safe, or emotionally unsettled. A familiar presence in the room can change the feeling of night. So can the absence of one. A voice can soothe. A hand can calm. A steady breath beside you can become part of the sleep environment. This is not weakness. It is mammalian. The nervous system takes cues from other nervous systems. Calm can be shared. Safety can be borrowed. A room can become easier to sleep in because someone trustworthy is also resting there. And when you are alone, other cues can still help. A familiar sound, a weighted blanket, the smell of clean sheets, a lamp dimmed low, the ritual of tea, the same book, the same soft voice, the same reminder that the day has ended, and nothing more is required from you right now. The quiet animal understands repetition better than argument. It believes what happens often. So night after night, the smallest rituals can become messages. We are safe enough. We are allowed to stop. We can go down now. Of course, no environment is perfect. There will be nights of noise, nights of heat, nights of worry, nights when the body refuses the schedule you had in mind, nights when dreams are strange, nights when you wake at 3 and the room feels too large. But even then, the quiet animal is not your enemy. It may be alert because it is trying to protect you. It may be restless because the day left too much electricity in the system. It may be listening because some old part of it is not yet convinced. You can meet that part with patience. Not perfect patience, just a little. A slower breath, a softened jaw, a hand placed over the chest. A reminder that the bed is not a battlefield. The night is not an exam. Sleep is not a moral achievement. It is a biological relationship. And relationships deepen through trust. As the night moves toward morning, the animal body continues its watch. It lets you sink, then rise, then sink again. It lets dreams pass. It shifts you. It filters sounds. It adjusts warmth. It keeps the heart speaking in its red language. It keeps the lungs opening and closing like pale flowers in the dark. And gradually, without asking you, it begins preparing your return. Because sleep is not only a descent, it is also a promise to bring you back. The body does not intend to leave you in the deep forever. At some point, the inner tide changes. Hormones shift. Temperature begins to rise. The architecture of sleep grows lighter. Dreams may gather near the surface. The old watchman sees the first color in the east, and somewhere beneath your closed eyes, morning begins to find you. And after the long hidden work of the night, morning begins to gather. Not all at once, not like a switch, but slowly, as if the body were bringing you up from deep water, one layer at a time. This is the return of morning. Morning does not arrive all at once. It gathers, first as a change too small to name, a pale thinning in the dark, a slight shift in the air, a quiet rearrangement of the body's chemistry before the eyes have opened. Somewhere beyond the room, the world begins to remember itself. Birds may start before people do. A truck passes on a distant road. The first light presses softly against the edge of a curtain. The house, which held its breath through the deepest part of the night, begins to make small sounds again. Beeps, wood, wind, the almost invisible music of things returning to use. And inside you, another return is happening. The sleeping body, which spent the night descending and repairing, and sorting and dreaming and keeping watch begins to guide you back toward the surface. Not suddenly, not like a switch, more like a diver rising slowly through dark water, following the faint silver of the world above. The architecture of sleep becomes lighter. Dreams may come closer to waking thought. The body's temperature may begin to rise. Hormones shift their rhythm. The heart prepares for the posture of morning. The brain starts rebuilding the bridge between the inner weather of sleep and the shared world of names, rooms, clocks, and responsibilities. For a while, you may exist between them, not fully asleep, not fully awake, a dream still touching the edge of the pillow, a memory of something impossible fading as the ceiling returns. You may know where you are before you know what day it is. You may feel the body before you feel the self. Warmth, weight, breath, the pressure of the mattress, the position of one hand, the quiet fact of being alive before any story attaches to it. This is one of the purest moments of the day, though it often passes unnoticed. There is a small mercy in waking that we often rush past. For a few seconds, the day has not yet become personal. It is not yet your inbox, not yet your obligations, not yet your mood explained by a story, not yet your worries arranging themselves in a line. It is only light, bote, breath, a room slowly becoming visible. This brief space can disappear almost instantly. The hand reaches for the phone. The mind remembers the date. The list returns. The self, with all its familiar weight, settles back into place. But before that happens, there is sometimes a clear, quiet moment in which being alive is simpler than being a person. The body is already here. It has arrived before identity. The lungs do not wait for your plans. The heart does not wait for your confidence. The morning does not ask whether you feel ready before it begins. It simply offers the next light. This does not mean the day will be easy. It means the return has happened. You crossed the night without guiding yourself. You moved through dark water, through repair, memory, dream, and watchfulness, and came back to the shore of the world. Even on an ordinary morning, this is not nothing. It is the oldest journey you know, and because it happens so often, you may forget to wonder at it. But the body does not forget how to do it. Again and again, it enters the dark. Again and again, it returns with you. Before the mind begins collecting its tasks, before the phone is reached for, before identity tightens around the familiar shape of I have to, there is a brief, open space. The body has brought you back. All night, it kept the rhythm. All night, it listened without making you listen. All night, it repaired what it could, released what it could, held what it had to hold, and now it returns you to the world. Not new, not completely changed, but altered in small, living ways. A little more organized, a little less full of yesterday's static, a little closer to being able to begin again. This is the quiet miracle of ordinary sleep. It does not announce itself as a miracle. It does not arrive with trumpets. It does not make every problem disappear. The bill is still due. The conversation may still need to happen. The grief may still be there. The body may still ache. The world may still ask too much, too quickly. But something has happened. Something beneath conscious effort. Something no list could have done. Something older than advice. The night has passed through you. In the first minutes after waking, the dream world may still leave fingerprints. A mood without a clear cause. A strange image. A feeling of having traveled far. Sometimes you wake peaceful. Sometimes unsettled. Sometimes with a solution waiting. Small and practical. as if someone placed it quietly on a table while you were away. Sometimes you wake with nothing but the dull reluctance of leaving sleep too soon. All of this belongs to morning. Morning is not always bright. Sometimes it is gray. Sometimes it is rushed. Sometimes it arrives before you feel ready. But even then, the return has begun. The brain resumes its daytime work. It rebuilds orientation. It places you in time. It gives you back language. It brings online the familiar networks of attention and planning. It lets the world become solid again. The bed is a bed. The window is a window. The sound outside has a source. The dream was a dream. The day is this day. There can be comfort in that. After the wildness of sleep, waking life offers edges. A coupe, a floor, a doorway, a name, a routine, the simple geometry of morning. Yet if you look closely, the night has not vanished completely. It lives in the way your thoughts arrive, in the emotional tone you carry, in what you remember easily and what has softened, in whether the body feels heavy or clear, in the distance between you and yesterday. Sleep leaves traces. Good sleep may leave a sense of quiet resilience. Fragmented sleep may leave the mind roughened, more reactive, less able to find the space between feeling and action. But either way, the night matters. It becomes part of the day. This is why sleep is not separate from life. It is one of the hidden ways life maintains itself. We often treat sleep as the opposite of productivity, because nothing visible is being produced. No message sent, no income earned, no room cleaned, no goal advanced, no public proof of effort. But sleep produces the conditions under which a person can continue. Attention, repair, emotional range, learning, patience, metabolic balance, a nervous system with at least some chance of meeting the world without breaking into sparks. These are not luxuries, they are foundations. A forest does not apologize for needing night. The ocean does not apologize for tides. An animal does not apologize for returning to its den. Only humans seem to believe rest requires justification, but the body knows better. Every morning is evidence. You were gone, and still you were kept. You released control, and still the heart continued. You surrendered the world, and still the breath came back. You entered the dark, and something in you remembered the way through. This does not mean every night is easy. Some nights are broken. Some are too short. Some are crowded with waking. Some are interrupted by pain, worry, care, work, children, noise, illness, age, memory, longing. There are seasons when sleep becomes a place we chase rather than enter. If that is true for you, there is no need to turn it into shame. The body is not failing as a character flaw. It may be responding to conditions, to stress, to timing, to light, to chemistry, to grief, to a bid, to a world that often asks the nervous system to stay alert long after sunset. A difficult night is not a personal defeat. It is information. Soft information, perhaps. A message from the body that something in the relationship between day and night may need kindness, more darkness, more regularity, less pressure, help from another person, a room that feels safer, a conversation that has been delayed, a body treated less like a machine and more like a living creature. But when sleep does come, even in pieces, the body uses what it can. A short descent, a fragment of dream, a stretch of deep quiet, a little repair, a little sorting, a little return. The body is practical in that way. It does not wait for perfect conditions to begin helping. It begins where it can. As morning strengthens, the last threads of sleep withdraw. You may stretch. The spine lengthens. The jaw moves. The hands open. The eyes blink against the light. The world pours in again. Shape, color, temperature, obligation, possibility. The self reassembles, not all at once, in layers. First the body, then the room, then the day, then the story of who you are inside that day. And perhaps, after listening to the hidden work of the night, that story can be held a little more gently. You are not only the one who works, not only the one who thinks, not only the one who remembers badly or worries too much, or tries to carry the whole day in the mind. You are also the one who is carried by breath, by rhythm, by cells that labor without praise, by sleep cycles you do not command, by dreams you do not fully understand, by the old animal intelligence that keeps watch while you are away. There is relief in belonging to the body this way. Relief in knowing that not every form of healing has to be conscious. Not every kind of progress has to be visible. Not every return requires effort. Sometimes the most important thing you do is stop doing. Lie down. Let the dark gather. Let the body remember. Let the night take over what the day could not complete. And then, eventually, return. This is the circle. Evening lowers its hand. The body receives the signal. Thought loosens. Sleep opens. Repair begins. Memory is tended. Dreams move like weather. The quiet animal keeps watch. Morning gathers. The self returns. And the day, whatever it holds, begins again. If this quiet kind of sleep science helps you settle into the night, you can subscribe to the Midnight Naturalist for more slow journeys through the hidden life of the body. And now, before we leave this edge of morning, let us look once more at the sleeper. Maybe it is you, maybe it is anyone, a person lying still in the blue-gray light before dawn, unaware of how much has happened in the dark. The face is quiet, the breath is steady, the room is ordinary. Nothing in the scene looks extraordinary, and yet, beneath that ordinary stillness, a whole night has passed through the body. Signals rose and fell. Temperature shifted. The heart kept time. The lungs opened and closed. The immune system whispered to itself. Cells repaired what they could. The brain sorted fragments of a life. Some memories were strengthened. Some details loosened. Some emotions changed shape. Dreams came and went. The old watchman listened, and slowly, patiently, the body carried the sleeper back. This is what morning means, when seen from the inside. Not just the end of sleep, the return from a hidden country, a country you visit every night, though you rarely remember the journey. A country with no tama you can draw on a map. Only rhythms, tides, waves, dark gardens, rooms made of dream, workers without names, animals that listen, and a horizon that always, eventually, begins to brighten. So when you wake tomorrow, before the day collects you completely, perhaps there will be a second to notice. The breath already here, the heart already faithful, the body already returned from its long, quiet work. You do not have to make that moment important. You do not have to hold it tightly. Just notice, if you can, that while you slept, life did not stop. It turned inward. It cared for you in the dark. And if there is one thought to carry softly from this night journey, let it be this. The body is not waiting for you to understand everything before it cares for you. It does not wait for perfect habits. It does not wait for a perfect mind. It does not wait for a perfect day. It begins with whatever darkness is available. It uses the small quiet. It uses the breath. It uses the room. It uses the slow permission to stop. And from these simple things, it makes another passage through the night. There is also comfort in knowing that sleep is not the same every night. Some nights are deep and generous. Some are thin and interrupted. Some carry dreams that dissolve before morning. Some carry no dream you can remember at all. Some feel like a long, dark river. Some feel like a handful of scattered moments. But the body does not require every night to be identical in order to keep trying. It works with what it is given. A quiet hour, a few cycles, a brief stretch of depth, a pocket of dream, a moment of stillness between waking and waking again. This is one of the reasons sleep should not become another harsh measurement of worth. You are not a better person because one night is easy. You are not a failure because another night is difficult. Sleep belongs to biology, environment, stress, habit, age, light, noise, memory, and the season of life you are living through. It is intimate, but it is not entirely under command. So the gentlest relationship with sleep may begin with respect. Respect for the body's timing, respect for darkness, respect for the small rituals that help the nervous system trust the room, respect for the fact that rest is not wasted time, and respect for the quiet truth that every morning, even after imperfect sleep, the body has still carried you through a hidden passage. It has still kept the heart speaking. It has still kept the lungs opening. It has still kept watch at the edge of awareness. It has still done what it could in the dark. That is enough to deserve a little gratitude. Not dramatic gratitude. Not the kind that needs to be announced. Only a private softness. A small inward nod to the body that stayed with you while you were away. And tonight, when the room becomes quiet again, the same ancient work will wait for you, not as a demand, as an invitation. The bed, the breath, the darkness, the slow release of the day. The mind may still wander for a while. It may bring unfinished thoughts to the edge of the pillow. It may try to keep one small lantern burning, but beneath that, the body will already know the way. It will listen for safety. It will lower what can be lowered. It will mend what can be mended. It will sort what can be sorted. It will dream what needs to move as image. And somewhere in the long dark, without asking for thanks, it will begin carrying you back. Perhaps that is the deepest lesson of the sleeping body. You are not only restored by effort, you are also restored by surrender, by the hours when no one sees you working, by the breath that continues without applause, by the hidden intelligence that asks only for enough quiet to begin. In a world that often measures the visible, sleep belongs to the invisible, and still, it shapes everything you bring back into the light. The patience you may have tomorrow, the memory that may settle, the feeling that may soften, the next breath, the next beginning, softly, quietly, again and again. The night receives you, and the body remembers the road until morning returns, patient and pale, carrying you home once more. And in that return, there is a quiet kind of grace, a grace measured in breath, warmth, darkness, and return again, softly, once more, and then it brought you back to the light. Thank you for spending this quiet night with the Midnight Naturalist. May your room feel a little softer. May your breathing find its own slow rhythm. And may the hidden life of your body carry you gently through the dark.